So the first question is from Mark Beresford. How important are employers of record, in brackets, professional employer organizations, in helping companies expand and hire internationally in new markets? And do you see many examples of companies doing this? It seems to be very common in the US to ensure compliance, but not sure about other global markets.
I could speak on this because we do use it in certain markets. So as a company, because we need local language speakers and whatnot, we do hire internationally, and we have used some employers of records in specific countries. They can be quite pricey. So I would really kind of check different kind of routes and how many people you are actually going to be hiring in that specific market. If it's just one person, you could go down the employers of record kind of route, or if you can look into setting up your own payroll system in those specific countries. We've done both, depending on the country, and we've hired people in kind of Portugal, Czech Republic, Germany, and so on. So yeah, I think it really depends on your individual company and really how much you want to spend and how much you actually want to be doing, of like organizing it. If you want to set up the payroll and you have a finance team that can assist with that sort of thing, then by all means that might be the cheaper and easier method in the long run. But definitely, if you don't want to be managing any of the local legal side, the payroll, anything like that, or if you sell a specific product that you do need someone in that local country that is, for example, they need to be employed by the local country, or a company in the local country, then the professional employer organizations are the route to go. So yeah, it really, I think, would be business specific, but they're not a bad way to start out, I would say. And then in the long term, depending on what your long-term strategy is, then shifting over onto the the more localized approach from our experience.
Great, thank you. Anyone?
Yep, I would agree. Yeah, definitely, the employer record is a very good way to get up to speed quickly, right? So like if you are just starting and like you care about the speed of entering the new market, then the employer record is definitely like one way to go. Because like if you don't go through that route, then you would need to set up the company, set up the payroll system, consult with HR lawyers to understand like what the contract should look like, what the benefits should be look like, and all of those stuff that you have your kind of HR team doing in your home country, right? You just need to replicate in the new country. So in this case, the employer record is definitely one of easiest thing to go to set up quickly. But then, as Alex said, they become very, very expensive, like while you are increasing your headcount there. And yeah, we see that like in a lot of the cases, you start with employer record, and then like after hitting certain number of employees, it makes sense to add somebody who will be looking after the admin part of your new market. And then like in this case, you'll just like switch everything to in-house.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's move on to the next one. Kashif asks, for a B2B software as a service business, what steps do you suggest for initial customer acquisition in a new country? And then in brackets, online ads, cold calling, email, those are just a couple of examples.
I think it definitely pays to be as targeted as you can be. And I know in the UK at least, there are a number of agencies that help you get that traction initially. They go on a commission basis. So if you don't want to put a team in there straight away, you don't want to have that cost base, that you can work with agencies that, especially if you've got a very well defined service and it's everything set up on the back end, then you can work with an agency to onboard people based on a commission. I know quite a few in the UK. I don't know if you want me to plug them here. But there are those people who specialize in software as a service businesses.
I think, of those options listed, I think the other thing is not a great answer, but it is just trial and error. You have to try, a bit of everything and see what sticks in the market. I've known of companies which have become fintech unicorns in the UK, who 5 years ago were handing out flyers in Shoreditch. You know, I mean, it's a very low-tech way of gaining users, but I think, you know, if you're new into the market, you do just have to have a go and try, see what works, see what doesn't work. As Tony says, you can pay a firm to do that for you. But if you are sat there thinking this product will really fly in the US, then all those things you mentioned, cold calling, email, you know, it's getting those first customers. Even if you get one customer, that's a huge achievement, because it's a customer you didn't have, you know, a year before. So yeah, I would say it's not going to be easy, but it is just trial and error and seeing what works in that market. Again, ask for help. Speak to people who've done it before, who've been there in that market. What's the one that the people in the US hate cold calling? Should not even bother with it. And I think it comes back down to asking the people with that experience.
To Kashif's just asked me another question there on the chat. I mean, likes of, to James's point, DIT have a list of commercial partners that they vet, which is freely available on their website. There are agencies, particularly in your sector, I would advise B2B, software as a service, sales agencies. Use J&B Associates and James Blakemore, because I've used them many times for referrals myself, and they're great. And they do a lot of work with likes of DIT and London and Partners as well, and they've been doing it for a long time. So that might be someone you could try, but there are, as the BBC would say, there are other agencies available.
If I may add, like, I would encourage, like, whenever entering into the new market, especially for B2B SaaS, like, one of the things that you want to do, like, want to focus your attention in the initial period is learning, right? So you want to learn as much as possible about, like, your potential clients and about, like, how should you craft your product. So in this case, one of the greatest advice I heard is, like, don't be afraid to do things that don't scale, right? So like, it shouldn't be a scalable solution from the get-go. Try, like, hopefully you're entering the market where you already have some network, and most probably if you, like, ask around, you will have somebody from this market, and just try to get the first of those clients as quickly as possible, like, with the ways that wouldn't be usually scalable. But I would encourage you to do it yourself, and to be able to maintain this relationship with the client, to see the first hand what's working, what's not, so that then you can craft your value proposition to be best fit to this particular market.
The only thing I would add, and I don't know how relevant it would be for a very small business, but I do think it could be, is any partnership. So if you are partnered with someone and say here in the UK, and you are selling it, like, that's going really successfully, and maybe they are trading internationally, maybe the partnership with them might be able to assist you to go abroad and start getting those initial acquisitions. But yeah, I think partnerships can go a long way, even if you can't give so much back at the beginning. It is all about value add and going back and forth, and trying to figure out what the partner wants. It's not always a lead that they want. It could be something else in a way that you can add value. So yeah, I would have those discussions and try and form any partnerships in the markets that you want, or for the companies that are already trading in those markets, that maybe have the same sort of customers that you want.
Great, thank you, guys. Kashif also asked about the 6 steps that Tony mentioned earlier. So just to let you know, he has written those down in the questions part, if you wanted to get a copy of those. But also, we will be sending out a copy of this webinar to everyone via email, so you will get a copy of that as well. So any tips, you will be able to access them later. I've got one more question as well, and Tim asks, what is the best strategy on Shopify for translating your website? So for local markets in Germany or Norway, for example.
You've stumped us.
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, I don't know. So that's why you've got a stunned silence, I think.
Yeah.
Look, I think, you know, for Shopify aside, if you need to translate your product into a new market, whether that be your website or whether that be, you know, your e-commerce store, I think look at tools you can access relatively cheaply. So lots of freelancing websites. You're going to find local translators on there. You don't need to hire someone locally to translate a website. And I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about, before sinking a lot of money into a new country or a new region, do get your MVP or minimum viable product ready for the market, ready for the German market. So go on Fiverr, find a German translator and ask them to translate it for you at a low cost. That's the only advice I can offer there from my side.
Yeah, have a holistic strategy. So it's part of your whole market entry strategy for that country. So, translation is fine and everything else, but, is that entwined with the local marketing agency who knows the best way to market that across Germany? What keywords you're using. You can't just replicate the same language in a different country. I mean, sometimes you maybe can, but a lot of times you can't. So make sure that's integrated with you can just hire a translator, of course, if it's dead simple, if you've just got a widget, and I'm selling a widget into those places. But you also got to know, what channels, what sites, like LinkedIn. They have their own equivalent of LinkedIn in Germany, for example. So if you're marketing out through LinkedIn, you'd want to also do it through the German equivalent. That's where the German, rates of subscribers for LinkedIn is down compared to all the other big countries in Europe. So just again, going back to what we said before, understand your market, make sure it's part of a more holistic approach.
But one thing that we did learn, another fintech I worked at, is the website. As Tony says, you couldn't have the same homepage for every market in Europe. So in Germany specifically, there's something called the Tuft mark, which is like, it's like which in the UK, to say it's a verified service or verified product. And that carried a lot of weight in the market on having that on the homepage. So yeah, I would look at, aside from the actual language, are there other things which you need to have on that website to make it relevant for local customers?